Look who's back, like he never left. The best show of the best shows has officially returned. Bigger, better, and much more athletic. For Canon's sake is officially back. With no-nonsense commentary on entertainment, politics, and whatever else we want. And now, for your host, the frontman of Backwards and founder of the Rippaverse, Mr. Eric July.
What's up? What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Live, as usual, on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 for another episode of For Canon's Sake. We got a special one for you today. I want to thank all of you guys who have been showing a lot of love for the Rippaverse, man. Things have been crazy around here. We got so many planned announcements. We've been working very hard. I actually had something really fun that I did over this weekend, which I think this week we'll be able to show you what all happened with that. So thank you guys for the continued support. I say that all the time. I am really appreciative of everything. Support for the channel, support for the show, everything that I do. I thank you guys so much. And we just want to keep getting this material out to you guys. We know you enjoy the Rippaverse. We know you enjoy the characters. And, you know, what better way to show you our appreciation and just continuing to create. So today we have a very special guest, though. This is going to be a very gaming-oriented stream today, or show. And I'm very, very, very excited. There's a lot that's been taking place. And it's not to say that crazy things haven't happened with gaming. I do believe there has been some infiltration, long-term and long-time infiltration that's happened in gaming. But it's come to the forefront today, and people are, even normies, are taking note of what's happening. We know that something's wrong, particularly with AAA gaming. And the ideological emphasis, particularly in the social, maybe political realm. But we're going to talk about all of that with a very, very special guest. This man has worked on arguably what is some of you guys' probably favorite game. No, arguably there. I know a lot of you guys know what this man did with Blizzard. I've been on stream with him before, I believe with Yellow Flash. We had him on Tuesday night's main event as well, and you guys are very, very, very familiar with him. So, without further ado, we got a bunch of cool things that we're going to be talking about today, but I'd like to introduce Mark Hearn, a.k.a. Grummz. You know him, brother. How you doing, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric. Glad to be here. And finally on your own show. We have met before. I was first aware of you when you came out with the Rippaverse comic, and I said, this man is going to transform comics. And you did. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much, man. I appreciate you taking some time to chat with me. And man, I just got so many good questions lined up for you. Audience, if you're hanging out, please thumbs the video up. If you're hanging out with us live, send us a retweet if you're on Twitter or X, whatever they want to call it, because we're going to be talking about some cool things. So we know where we're at right now, but let's start at the beginning, because a lot of people may not know. I mean, it's funny because I'll see tweets that'll come from people and it'll be like, hey, this guy doesn't know anything that he's talking about regarding the industry. And I'm like, do you have any idea of who it is that you are talking about? So if you could, let everybody know. Take us from, I mean, when you was a wee lad, what got you into gaming and what was your kind of start within the gaming industry?
Holy smokes, that's a long time ago.
Well, we got all the time in the world. Go for it.
I'll try to be brief, but I've done a lot.
Yeah.
So I just like everybody else, I kind of grew up gaming, but back in my day, it was 8-bit computers, and I was playing games on Apple II computers, Apple II GSs, and I started writing my own games in high school. I wrote text adventure games. That was a big thing for a while. You had companies like Infocom and Zork, and I used to speed run those games. So whenever I got a new Infocom game, I would finish it, all the puzzles, in like just a couple hours, and that was kind of a challenge for me.
Okay,
I was really into it, and but making games wasn't on my mind. My parents wanted me to, who were Asian, wanted me to be like a lawyer, doctor, that type of thing. So I went to college, and I continued to make games in college on my own and play games. big fan of a lot of the old classics, XCOM, Wing Commanders,
There you
all of
go.
that stuff. And then, I decided, well, I better go to law school because I'm Asian, right? Well, I'm half Asian. I'm half Asian and half white. So
Yeah.
I went into law school and I said law school's kind of boring. And and a friend of mine reached out and said, "Hey, we've been working on a game together. Guess what? Interplay wants to publish us." And I was like, "Holy shit, really?" And and so I said, "Okay, but hey, I'm in law school. I can't do this. Sorry." And I turned him down. Well, he flew out to Boston to see me. Oh, my accent slipped there a little bit. Boston.
Boston. Okay.
Park the car in the yard and party at Harvard. So he came out and he said, "You got to do this." And I was like, "Okay, I'll give you a summer." And so I spent my summer for less than minimum wage slaving. I would literally roll out of bed, work on this game called Star Reach for Interplay, and which was a precursor to RTSs and actually partially inspired Blizzard to create one, amongst other games
Okay.
like Herzog Zwei on Sega. And so we made this game and we got it out there, and I was like, and I saw it on the shelves in game stores. Back then we had EB Games, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy
Yeah.
crap,
Yeah.
this is real." And I said, "Do I still want to do law?" But I went ahead and I did my law degree, but I got another gig working for Naughty Dog back when Jason and Andy were working out of their room across from MIT. And I was there when they got the fax from Universal buying their company and they were going to move out there. And we were working on a 3DO game called Way of the Warrior, which was a really kind of campy fighting game on the
Okay.
3DO.
Okay.
And then I said, "Well, this game stuff looks like it's taken off. Maybe I should start a game company." And so instead of after I graduated from law school, I went ahead and started my first game company, and we were working on a game during the .com boom,
Okay.
uh, and the game was called Crixa, and it was a top-down arcadey shooter type of thing, uh, and in a sci-fi setting, obviously. And we had two bidders, so we had Bungie, who came to us and said, "We want to publish your game," and we had Blizzard, who came to us and said, "We want to publish your game." And I was like, "Okay, you two guys fight now." So,
That's how you do it. It's always the art of the negotiation.
I can't, I'll never forget the words Bill Roper, the producer of Blizzard at the time, said to me. He's like, "Oh, Bungie wants your game? We'll kick the shit out of any offer they have." So he said, "Fly out tomorrow." So I flew out and I went out and that's how we started working with Blizzard. Now Blizzard changed their tactics. They had trouble making more than one game at once, and they were working on this little other game called Diablo. And they had to pick, and they said, "Look, we're really sorry. We're going to keep paying you for a month or two here, but we're going to focus on Diablo because we can't focus on more than one game type. But we'd like to hire all you guys." So there were 8 of us at the time. Say, "Hey, come out to Blizzard, and we'll make you happy, and we can work on games." And I was like, "Okay." Well, I looked around for investors, and it was the .com era. Unless you were making a web-based game, nobody wanted to talk to you because games were like, "What's that?
Yeah.
What industry is that?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nothing."
Yeah. Yeah.
The web is everything. So I was the only one who took the offer to go out there. A couple of my guys ended up as tech leads at Xbox or art directors at EA Games or starting their own, becoming CEOs of web companies. But I said, I'm going to go to Blizzard. I'm going to learn how to make great games, and then I'm gonna try it again. So I went to Blizzard, and they had me on an internal project that was, they revealed this at BlizzCon, so I could talk about it now. It's called Raiko. It was the Japanese sort of not Diablo, but Diablo-esque type RPG game.
Okay.
And it was really cool, actually. But the team that was making it was very inexperienced, and I actually recommended that we cancel that project. But I said, "I'll find you a new developer." Found a new developer. Anyways, this is really old history. Then I was associate producer on StarCraft, and then I was a producer on StarCraft 64, which was the Nintendo port. Then I became I worked on Warcraft Adventures. I brought in Steve Moretsky from Infocom one of my heroes to come revamp the game, but it was outsourced to a Russian studio and they were doing a horrible job. So that's another project that I recommended that we cancel, and we did cancel that one. So I got the name Sling Blade in Blizzard for a while because I would cancel projects ruthlessly. I'd be like, this isn't up to Blizzard quality.
Yeah.
And it was always external studios, never our internal stuff. There was
Okay.
a big quality difference. So anyways, I guess, I became manager of product development and I oversaw development for all the titles as we tried to go multi-title at Blizzard. And then there was a project that was struggling called World of Warcraft, and they were not doing well, and the whole company was against it. And I said, I believe in this project. Let me come on board. And so they were going to cancel it. The former team lead and tech lead had left to form ArenaNet. The game was on the chopping block, and there was I was with the CEO and two other founders, and I said I could do this. Put me in, coach. And
Yeah.
so I went on to. Oh, I was also producer on Diablo 2. That game I try to forget about because it swallowed my soul. Very painful development. But anyway, so I stepped onto to Team World of Warcraft, and I devoted myself to one project. I eventually became team lead, and it was a tremendous undertaking. And we when we shipped the game, we didn't know what would happen. We didn't know if it was going to be a success. It's the first time Blizzard had ever lost money because we'd spent so much making the game, and we were on pins and needles. So yeah, that's my long-winded history.
Man.
There's a bunch of other stuff I left out, but hey, we'll keep it there.
Well, no, you actually stopped at a great point because I was going to ask you, forget where it's at right now. Everybody has, of course, their opinions on, and rightfully so, where the direction of Blizzard. But just from that either contractor or employee perspective, how was it through those years, especially during that era of WoW?
Man, we were like a family, Blizzard was small at the time. We had only, I would say, under 200 employees. And when I started, it was like 60 people. Uh, and it was so tight knit. We were like a band of brothers, right? So we would make games during the day, and at night we'd sit around play Magic the Gathering or Legend of the Five Rings or any number of things together, sitting in the hallways, with our cards. And we would fight like brothers too. The
Mm-hmm.
design arguments were extremely passionate. And I had
I
this
love it.
one guy, James Finney, brilliant game designer and writer. His favorite phrase was in counter argument was if someone said something he didn't like and proposed something that we do something, he's like, sure, you could do that if you want to make a bad game. So that but you know what? But we always came out of those meetings united. It's like, okay, we
Mm-hmm.
fight to get the best ideas, and then once we had the idea, we all pulled behind it, and that's the important part. And that's gone now. Blizzard
Okay.
is extremely corporate, and there's a lot of infighting, and unfortunately, a lot of DEI politics inside the studio now. And you can tell that Activision has basically taken over the entire company, and Microsoft now, obviously. Who knows what Microsoft influence will bring? But given their reports on guidelines on DEI, not good things.
Right.
But it would, as soon as it turned corporate, I said, that's it. It's time for me to leave. 6 months after we shipped WoW, and I'll never forget the moment that I made that decision. It was actually 6 months before I left. They asked me to lay off the most successful team in Blizzard history on the eve of our greatest game, and they said you got to go in and you got to chop people. And I said no. I said we are a family. We've been telling people for years we're not Electronic Arts. We don't hire developers and then fire them as soon as we're done with a game. This is wrong. And I'll never forget what happened. The VP turned to me and said, well, we're a real company now.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
oh, I see.
Wow.
Times have changed now that money is here. Okay. And that's when I started to make my plans to leave. 6 months later, I sent in my resignation letter. They asked me, the CEO and founder called me back, said, what could we do? You want a sabbatical for a year? What can we do? And I said, nothing. I'm burnt out. I've got 2 Blackberries going off with messages about WoW emergencies every day. I need a break. So that's when I left.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, Speaking of WoW, I mean, people that follow me know I'm a big MMO, RPG guy, just RPG, especially more particular action RPGs for sure. But I have to ask you, definitely as someone that has been part of that development and all that, and me and my man's ass, aka Hill versus Babyface, we've talked about this extensively because he's a big fan of the genre as well. In fact, I think it was WoW that was one of the games that kind of put him on. And we've talked about how, and I know I've discussed this many of times, how that genre, right? It hasn't taken that next step as far as that next generation feel, right? There's the Final Fantasy Onlines, the Elden Scrolls Online, or all that, or Elder Scrolls Online, all that exists, but we haven't seen that next. Been a lot of stuff like coming from like a lot of Korean, developers, but they haven't quite taken the next step. Why do you think that is? Is it more the technical aspect of why that genre hasn't taken that next step? As someone that has obviously developed maybe the last one that kind of pushed the envelope, what do you think is the reasoning for that?
Can you clarify for me exactly what this next step means to you?
For me, and that's a great question, by the way, and I'm glad you asked that. For me, we know that with all these particular engines, Unreal, what have you, they have taken the next step as far as not just visually, well, we think visually, but also with like how the game is particularly designed. As an example, Cyberpunk, I'm not saying that was supposed to be an MMO, it never was. But like even from the RPG perspective, we were sold that it was going to be the next gen RPG. It was supposed to be like this life almost simulator. Now a lot of that stuff didn't end up making the game once it came out, but that's more or less what I'm thinking when I think like the next gen. So when you play it, we know every time Grand Theft Auto comes out, as an example, we see it and it has this new thing that's a part of it, and we're like, well, this really, we haven't seen this in a game before. Now for maybe action RPGs in general, we've seen, I don't want to say maybe stagnation. Maybe arguably, maybe it's not necessarily a step back, but it hasn't taken the next step from like having key aspects of the game that we are like, we have never seen this before, and then it sets the tone for the generations to come and the next development for various games or the genre overall. That's more or less what I mean when I say next gen or the next big thing and taking the next step.
Well, I'll tell you, when World of Warcraft came out, there were so many copycats. It was so funny because they
Yes.
would even copy some of our mistakes, and the genre stagnated. And I think what happened was WoW killed it. WoW came in and was the dominating thing, and we used to have so many more interesting MMOs before World of Warcraft, right?
Okay.
The original Star Wars MMO. Very different type of sandboxy game, right? Completely different. We had PlanetSide, which was billed at an MMO at the time, where you had these massive battles going around the server, and we had so many experiments. Ultima Online, also a very different type of game. And when WoW came out, everyone said, "Oh, that's the way you do it," and nobody wanted to fund anything that was different.
Okay.
They said,
That
"Give
makes
us
sense.
WoW," and that was the problem for even my own company, where the owners were like, "Give us WoW," and I would be like, "No." And if you try to copy WoW, you're doomed to failure. You're going to stagnate, and we need to innovate. We need to push MMOs into the next boundaries. The problem is, MMOs are some of the most expensive games.
That's what I
you can make.
figured. Okay.
Activision has said if you were to try to do World of Warcraft today, it would cost $1 billion.
Jesus.
$1 billion. Not, that would be one of the most expensive game ever made. And I what's driving the cost here is not just the complexity of the MMO, but also the amount of content you have to provide.
Yeah.
And that has to change. And there's ways to change that. And also the art explosion. Here's what screwed everybody in AAA. When Gears of War came out, and I follow Cliffy B, and Cliffy B follows me. We have very different politics, but we see eye to eye on design. And he came out, and with Gears of War, with Unreal, with Epic, the first Unreal title with next-gen graphics. And the graphics were incredible.
Yeah.
That was the watershed moment. We all sat around, developers, and went, "Oh, fuck." I don't know. Can I swear on this channel?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Trust me, you're good on that. You are good on that.
We said, "Oh crap," and everybody had to learn how to do next gen graphics. And next gen graphics, it would take us like maybe 3 days to make a monster in World of Warcraft. With next gen graphics, you're looking at a team of 4 working for 6 weeks on a monster.
Jesus.
So it was orders of magnitude more complicated to do next gen graphics. And nobody had the personnel. And everyone was scrambling to hire. It was a great time if you're a game developer or game artist, especially. And team sizes started to get out of control.
Okay.
Out of control. Because you're talking about 10x the complexity, right? So you try to do that in an MMO, and now the MMO is going to take a long time. Look, the average time to make a new IP in AAA is 7 years now. Okay.
Wow.
And that's how bad it's gotten. And these gigantic team sizes are unmanageable and actually slow everybody down. And so this is why nobody wants to invest $1 billion in an MMO. Nobody wants to take that sort of risk unless they follow a formula they think works. And that formula is and always has been WoW. The only ones to break away successfully, and they didn't deviate that far, but they innovated, was Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
And they relaunched that game, and they have a fantastic storyline. I love that game. I actually like it better than WoW. And they knocked it out of the park. But they're the only ones that really changed the formula up in a meaningful way.
Yeah,
and succeeded. I mean, there have been attempts. But
yeah, that's what I was about to say. There's been those attempts, and that's what I figured. I figured that cost technically, and also when you're trying to make things look far more realistic with this whole next gen situation, I can see that. That makes sense as to why it will cost more. I for sure wanted it from a developer's perspective and what that is. Now, with that being said, we also are seeing with and taking, I guess, advantage of these engines that are out there, that you're seeing small development teams be able to do things that are now like really, really competitive. Not necessarily in the MMO genre, but that are doing more smaller scaled games that are maybe in some cases competing with even the AAAs. Now,
you're so right.
Right. So with that being said, though, like, is that the way of the future? And if you can kind of put that into perspective, use all the jargon and lingo that you need to put that into perspective, like in comparison when you were coming up and the cost that would be associated to make a game that looked anything like what it does now that some of these smaller teams and smaller devs are doing versus what you can do now and what you can accomplish. Are you able to kind of put that into more perspective?
Well, my chat here in my Ember Discord just told me that Cliffy B unfollowed me. I must have been something.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Unfortunate.
And, so, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is possible to reach much higher quality. Look, indie games used to just be 2D sprites and simple graphics because that's all we could do. But the tools have gotten so much better. Engines have gotten so much better. And AI-assisted tools have gotten so much better. I know AI gets a bad rap, but if you look at it as a tool for the artist and a tool for teams and creators to achieve their vision rather than a replacement for creativity, that's the real focus of where you can get these benefits in game production. So the problem is that AAA studios have gotten very, very lazy and fat. COVID was boom time, right? You had so much customers, so much sales. You could do anything and make money. People were so hungry for games sitting at home. And what happens when these studios get really big is you get a lot of Dilbert-like corporate politics, unfortunately. And I know friends at Blizzard told me everything that went on there. You get departments that build up. Oh, I want to be a lead for this department. I want to be a lead for that department. And they start competing with each other for influence and power within the company. You get these battling business units. And what do you need to do to compete in a political situation like that? You need an army. So what do? You go out and hire people and you try to increase your budget and you try to become more important in the company, have more influence. So there was a lot of fat that was happening during the COVID era. There's a lot of people bulking up and these team sizes just so they can have more sway and more influence in companies. And there's no incentive to downsize. not from the manager level. The incentive to downsize, and the reason we have layoffs now, is because the COVID boom is over. Games have to actually deliver profit because DEI and ESG funding has dried up.
Right.
And that is when you're seeing these massive layoffs, and you can make a game with a much smaller team. Even AAA does not need 600 people spread over 8 studios worldwide to make a game. You actually slow down productivity. Anyone who's read classic software development like the Mythical Man Month, studies like that, know that the more people you add to the team helps up to a certain point. And at that point, communication and coordination get so difficult that you're actually probably 5 times less productive than an indie dev.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting to see because while these between all these engines and what you're able to do, you're starting to see a lot of people give it a shot independently, and it's created a really cool wave of creatives that are doing some awesome things. But then you do look at what's happening with AAA right now, and then it seems like, wow, you look at the budgets for some of these games, and it's like, how in the hell are simultaneously we making these advances? But on the other hand, games are costing as much as they ever have. So
we're getting less gameplay for it.
Exactly right. You're getting far less hours out of the game from it. So you would attribute that to the bloat more than anything, because if they were more focused, and if they were, you'd imagine on average, if they were smaller teams, you could still create something that is very competitive, that is very good for that matter, and it should be a lot cheaper than what it had been in the past.
Yeah, you got to take away the focus on making graphically spectacular movie games.
Okay.
And what do I call a movie game? Movie game is where the experience is largely cinematics interspersed with gameplay elements, right? And you see a lot of these single player type games come out, and even then, you have to realize, look, interactivity is the medium of video games.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, I mean, if you look at books, words are the tools and the medium of that, painting a picture of words. And when you go to movies, now the words are less important. You tell the story with pictures, and the words support the pictures. Well, now you get to games, and what's the difference between games and movies? Games are interactive.
Yes.
Interactivity is the most engaging part of a game, and the story should support it instead of be the main focus. You can have a movie game. Some people really like that. I get that. But if you want to exploit the medium to its fullest, it's interactivity. And that's what Baldur's Gate 3 discovered. They discovered that if they put their energy into making the world completely interactive and having multiple ways to solve every combat situation that comes along, and having multiple outcomes of talking to NPCs and actually make an impact on the game itself,
right,
and change things, that is where the moneymaker is. I believe that gameplay has always been king.
Absolutely.
And the focus should return to that in AAA to help fix it.
I'm right there with you on that, and I do think that we are moving in that direction with not necessarily with AAA, but I'm really excited for the future, not just with what we've seen in comics and even what you're seeing in the filmmaking space, but for sure what we're seeing in gaming, that a lot of indie developers are finding out that they can do something that's competitive, that's loved, and it does not necessarily have to have 600 people that are a part of it. They got their hands in the cookie jar. So I know we got a chance to talk about a lot of the development stuff, but obviously with the elephant in the room, we've got to talk about. We touched a little bit on what's going on, DEI and all that's in gaming and really everything. I know you specify a lot what's going on in gaming because you do have that kind of internal knowledge. It is happening, however, everywhere. But for you, was there a specific tipping point that made you want to be more vocal? Was it more of like your hand was forced? It's like, okay, this is too bad, for me to just sit up here and not say anything. And I do believe that people that have that level of I don't want to say necessarily expertise, but that perspective from knowing and understanding how development cycles work, that perspective is much needed. But what was it for you that did it? That made you want to be like, you know what, we got to be more vocal about this.
So, listen, it's It's because it's a bigger problem than games. It's because the world has gone insane
Hmm.
and we've abandoned meritocracy, we've abandoned speech, we've abandoned all these principles that have worked so well to propel us, forward as a society and to bring us together. And now we're using the cloak of virtue as a weapon to divide us.
Right.
And this is not just happening in games. People see it happening everywhere. It's happening in tech, it's happening in movies, it's happening in books. I have author friends who basically have been canceled by big publishers because they don't want white authors anymore, right?
Mm.
And so they've gone indie and become very successful, but it's everywhere. And and the whole system is designed to tear down everything that we love that has been, even the good stuff, and just for the sake of replacing it. And replacing it with what? Replacing it with uh you know dangerous concepts like non-merit based promotions, right? There's
Hmm.
people being promoted into positions that not for skill but just on the basis of their skin color, right?
Yeah.
All logic is being abandoned, and I've been seeing this happen worldwide. And I said, this is bad.
Yeah.
And I want to do something about it. And then I saw a tweet by Elon Musk, and he said, the woke mind virus
Oh yeah.
is, I forget the exact word. The woke mind virus is a threat to humanity and must be stopped. Something like that, right?
Hmm.
And I said, he's right. He's right. And I said, okay, I can't take on the world, but I can take on gaming. And I see what's happening in gaming, and people don't know what's happening in gaming or how pervasive it is. This can be the area where I can speak up. And luckily, we've got a platform where we can talk about this stuff now. Because for years, my followers were suppressed, my tweets were suppressed. I couldn't get any visibility on the old Twitter platform. But now that it's X, I can have a voice and I can possibly do something. So I've been doing my best to educate consumers, right? I think this is Vera Dark likes to say this. It's like, listen, support what you like, but go in educated, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
people got to know how infested DEI and ESG was in gaming and is today, not only from the top down from the funding aspect, but from the bottom up for all the activists who came in during the COVID hiring boom and are still there, creating this sort of atmosphere of hate and division under under the guise of looking like good people when they're actually causing more problems than games should be a watering hole. I always said that. It's entertainment. It's the one time we can put aside our differences, hop into a game together and have a good time, get to know each other. And they don't want that. These community
Right.
managers, I've been pointing out how rife with DEI they are. I've had insiders come in. I've broken stories about it. They have secret groups where they talk about this and they shame other community managers if they don't have the right opinions, and try to get them canceled or fired. And and these are the people interfacing with the gaming community, and people need to know about this. And this is so I would say that is exactly what I'm doing on Twitter. It's gotten a huge amount of attention, thanks to
Shout out.
Cabrutus Rambo, bless his soul, Brazilian man,
Yeah.
started a group called Sweet Baby Detected, on a curated group on Steam. It's currently at 350,000 members, and we won at number one. PC Gamers at number one with 600,000. So please join his Steam curated group. All he did was put up a list that say, hey, these people, this consultancy group, which specializes in woke agenda stuff and wrote for all these games that ultimately had very poor writing and crashed and even closed some studios like Suicide Squad, you should know about this. And then you make the decision. Do you want to buy this game or not? That's all he said. And they went after him and they tried to cancel him and they tried to cancel me, and they're trying to shut everybody up right now. And we're never going to shut up. And that, I think when Cabrutus spoke up, that's when I went full throttle. I said, okay, Elon's right. Cabrutus has a wedge. Let's make that wedge really wide. Let's educate everybody and see where the chips fall.
That's respectable. And look, I think that people not being in the know on how this stuff is going down, how infested this stuff is. I think it's so very important. And you having been part of developmental groups, maybe when you were definitely doing stuff with Blizzard and others, I'm pretty sure there were external factors, but maybe not to this degree. But can you take us through, definitely with you having those insiders, the involvement of the external companies? We know that was the Sweet Baby Inc. is the under the guise of consultancy, and the Black Girl Gamers and the Gamer X's, where that's specifically why they are brought on to inject essentially their social views per se into these narratives of a lot of these games, right? So how involved? Because obviously it feels like it's gotten worse. How involved are these sort of external companies in like game development these days?
It ranges. I think when Sweet Baby Inc. and Black Girl Gamers says, "Oh, we don't do anything," and the press report says, "Well, they don't have any real impact. It's all a misunderstanding." That's a half truth. There are some games where they're brought on just to check a box, right? Because when you check that box, you get extra ESG points, and that qualifies you for more funding. So CFOs and CEOs of companies, which I've been one, your CFO is your best friend, and you're looking to get that funding money, and you just fill the boxes. But on the other projects, they do have a tremendous amount of influence. Kim Belair, the head of SBI, is credited as lead writer on many projects, including Suicide Squad, right? So, which cratered completely. And I think the more influence they have on the project, the worse it gets, because these people aren't in there to make games. These people saw an opportunity, saw that big companies needed to check these boxes and were throwing money around to hire consultants to check those boxes. They got in there. They didn't have the talent to actually write a AAA game, and it cratered studios, and that's a real shame.
So what do you think about the invitation, right? Because we've seen this in, for example, these bigger companies, some not even related to entertainment, where what they're doing is creating these internal sort of departments where that's the type of weird stuff that they focus on. It's DEI, it's the diversity officer, chief officers that have a team under them, and that's specifically what they're designed to do. Sensitivity screen, and again, inject whatever nonsense that they need in it. Do you think that's more or less what's more so happening with a lot of these companies now, that it's that bad, where it's less even about the consultancy and more about we're designating an entire department for this nonsense?
Yeah, that's all financially driven. Look, you have to, the bigger companies can have their own internal DEI departments. The smaller studios, what they're being asked to do is hire consultants like Sweet Baby, hire other ESG funding ESG checkbox companies like that come in and manage your gender balance on teams and promotional hiring strategies. Why is this happening? Why do these AAA companies do this? Because games are hugely expensive to make, and it's not like, you make one game and you take all your own money and you invest it. No, you find the cheapest money you can and you hold on to your cash flow. So you're going out as CFOs are going out there and publishing things, and they're raising money from banks, they're raising money from trade portfolio funds, retirement funds even, and university funds, and they all have ESG requirements, especially in the 2019 era. Okay. It shifted away from that and away from media a little bit. But during 2019, 2020, this is where all the cheap money was. And you could get hundreds of millions of dollars and save a lot on your interest rates for any loans. And you could do this if you had proper ESG scores. So what does that mean? That means you had to have things like the right board composition. You can't have all white people on your board. You have to have POCs, and not just any POCs. Asians don't count.
Yeah.
Asians don't count.
Basically, they call you like the white people of minorities, is what they say.
I had one board that said Hispanics don't count.
Oh, wow.
And so they look at your board composition, and they look at what your what initiatives you have launched in the company. Do you have a DEI department? That's where that comes from. Do you have, consultants? What's your, hiring makeup? Who are in the lead and manager positions? Here's a Pantone chart. Please compare it to this and rate how you're doing. This is all requirements for things like funding and for credit scores from big credit rating agencies like Moody's, right?
Yeah.
This affects your stock price too. So it's not just the funding, it's also your stock price. So during this time, that's when DEI went crazy in game companies. And that's where, internal DEI departments sprouted up. And it's gotten so bad at some studios. Not every studio is as bad as others, but I'll tell you that from my sources, Ubisoft has got to be one of the worst.
Okay.
Activision, sorry, it'll be Microsoft now, but what we knew as Activision is one of the worst, where the DEI department is directly involved with feature decisions on games. You got an idea to put in your game, you got to run it through the DEI department. Do you know how long that takes?
Mm.
How many game decisions have to be made every day when you're developing a game? Imagining that you got to go to, legal for all this, except in this case, it's your political commissar, the DEI. Imagine you have to go to your DEI person every time you decide what you make a change to the female character. Is it too feminine?
Yeah.
Is it, does it appeal to the trans gays?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you can't. You're being choked, and so many good devs are out there, and I feel horrible because they're held hostage to all of these insane policies, and they don't have any creative freedom.
So, with that being said, what's the deal with these community managers? I know you put some spotlight on some of these guys, and look, you and I agree. We talked about this on Tuesday night's main event, I believe, or maybe it was on Flash's show, where it's like, bro, it's less about you having a particular or specific like political or social position, and it's more about you being unable to separate that from what it is that you're doing. And it's, what effectively happens is you're using, be it the game, movie, comic, whatever, as a vehicle, right, to spread whatever it is that it is that you spread. So you're incapable of leaving it at the door. And it looks like we've seen a lot of that with community managers. So fill us in on what's happening with some of these community managers out there and what you've been highlighting.
Right. Well, it's really bad. And here's why it's important. People may not know what a community manager does, right? But the community manager is the interface between the game customers and the developers, right? They are supposed to take all the feedback. They moderate and run the company's social media accounts. So they moderate the Discord. They moderate, Facebook or any place where people can comment. The forums. They they set policies for what you can and can't say. They ban people. They have the authority to warn, suspend, and ban people anytime they want with a great amount of freedom. They basically control the flow of information, not just from the game to the gamers, but the other way around. And so
Right.
that's a position of extreme power, because let's say you have gamers that are upset because you've made, changes to your Pokemon. This actually happened, right? So Nintendo, not Nintendo, but Pokemon Go, Pokemon Go's Niantic company, they made changes to the female trainer to basically make her look like a guy, right? For no reason. Everyone loved the game, and there was no reason for this change, but they went ahead and did it. And these screenshots are all over the web, and people are rightly upset. So let's say these people complain. Well, who picks up those complaints? The devs don't have time. The execs aren't in the forums reading every day what's happening on Discord or Twitter or anything else. They get a report from the community manager, just like I used to get reports from my community managers and still do. Here are the top issues in the game community right now that we need to respond to. Well, do you think they're gonna, if they are politically minded and they're the actual ones that are pushing for this DEI crap, that they're gonna report any of that up as a problem? No, they'll be like, nothing to see here. Either that, or they'll say, oh yeah, there's just a couple of trolls and their sock puppet armies. Nothing to worry about. the game will sell fine. And
Right,
of course,
right.
it's a lie, and the game creators there. That is why the role of community manager is so important. And here's what happened with that. I broke a story where a community manager insider in AAA came forward to me, confirmed his employment and everything, and told me about a private group that used to be on Discord, since moved off of Discord, where all the community managers get together and they all coordinate this stuff. And it's a few community managers that are very vocal activists that are terrorizing all the other community managers into falling in line with these politics, with these very, very extreme left leaning politics. And if they don't, they will be, these people will report you to HR and try to get you fired. They will try to publicly shame you inside amongst your peers in this community group, and they will make your life a living hell. And so everyone has to toe the line, and it's also not enough to be silent. You cannot just say, "Well, I don't really agree with this. I'm going to run my community differently." No, you are required to virtue signal. You are required to loudly promote with your chest these policies. And then that's a phrase they like to use, with your chest. I've seen it a couple times already. I think it's hilarious. And well, what if I have boobs? Okay, I'll.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, then that would be a good thing in my book. But so this is happening, and that's when I said, well, maybe I should look at these community managers. Maybe I should take a look what's going on. And I shit you not, every freaking page I look at of their accounts is so filled with anti-gamer. They hate gamers.
Yeah.
They hate white people, and they want to punch people. I just posted one from Insomniac Games. He wants to go around punching women and POCs and anyone who's on the right. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's and so I said, well, why don't I just show people what they're saying? And oh, that lit a firestorm. People got so mad. It's like, you can't do that. It's like, well, I'm just posting tweets. They're out of context. I'm like, show me the context. What context? And they don't have any. And so these are the people that are moderating gamer communities that are not passing the true opinions of gamers up to management and helping to, and basically silencing and intimidating anybody who's got a different opinion. They're not bringing people together. They're driving them apart. And this is the interface between devs and gamers. Extreme amount of power. We need neutral people in there. Yeah. And so that's what I'm trying to bring to light right now.
That's such a good point, because you don't think about it like that when you think community manager until you really understand what they do. And that's a great point. I mean, that is the point. I say this also as a company that has one. It's to get that feedback, and then you're passing that information on to the people that simply do not have time to be dealing with that, because they're either developing the game, they're dealing with other things. So really what you have here is maybe someone that is injecting their personal beliefs and passing that as if it is representative of the audience or the general customer. And when you put it that way, and it does make a lot of sense, right? It does seem like that is maybe the obvious that is to be the case. But I have to ask, so how do you feel? I ask this question to really everybody that I know. We often talk about doom and gloom, but how do you feel now that eyes are starting to be brought on? You have even normies, right? People that otherwise would have stayed out of this are now being far more vocal about the reality of what's taking place. How do you feel about the future of gaming? Is it going to be in the hands of maybe the independents, if this is going to be a course correction? Are you optimistic, let's say, about that? What is your overall feel?
I think this is still in play, right? And we are fighting the war for not just games, but the future of society and humanity. Are we going to be divided, or are we going to be united? And this is so we're winning some battles and we're losing some battles. We're winning the normies. The normies are finally waking up. We're all shedding light on this, and they're going, what's going on here? I have so many messages from people that said, I had no idea this stuff was happening in gaming. I'm so glad you pointed it out. Wow, this has really, really changed my mind, and I'm not going to buy this game, or I am going to buy that game. And that to me is important. Waking up the community at large so that they can make informed decisions about their purchases. You can support it. Go ahead, buy the game. You like DEI, go buy it. Go support it. You don't like it, you should know. You should know they don't like you. You should know that they would like to erase you, and and you can make the call from there. Now, the other thing that gives me, hope is that funding DEI and ESG funding has shifted. Okay, has shifted away from entertainment and into real estate and other sectors, and more of a focus on sustainability. So things like ecological factors, right? That gives me hope because if the money dries up, you're not going to get as much pressure from the top to implement programs just to check boxes so they can get funding.
Yeah.
So that gives me hope too. The other thing that's happening is, that these games are tanking. These DEI infused games where they focus on ham-handed tokenism rather than really deep characters and storytelling, gamers are rejecting it, and that is a very good thing because if you send a financial message to a company, that is the most effective voice you can have. Unfortunately, now this has been happening in movies. People are starting to reject movies. These movies are losing millions, hundreds of millions,
Hundreds of millions. Yeah.
yeah, and it's been. You can tell me, is it being rejected in comics?
Largely, yeah. I mean, comics have been on a sort of a downturn, if you will, at least in the mainstream. So I'd argue, yeah, it's starting to be rejected there as well.
And manga is more successful
Yes.
because they focus on the stories
Yes,
and the
correct.
politics at the side. And so you see this with comics, with movies, and it will happen with games, but it's going to take longer. And I'll tell you why. 7 years to develop a new IP for a AAA game. 3 years to 4 years for an existing IP. You're going to start to see this impact, but it's going to take a little longer in games because movies are a lot faster to make, comics are a lot faster to make, but it will happen. And so I'm calling on all gamers for a moratorium. Just give us 2 years. Give yourselves 2 years. Reject every single politically crappy game out there and just go buy indie. There's great stuff happening in the AA space, in the indie space. Everyone's got a Steam backlog that's probably a couple years long, right? Every time there's a Steam sale, we all go out and buy dozens of games that we never play. Go play those for 2 years. You do that for 2 years, I guarantee you will completely transform the industry. Now, the other thing that's pushing back against that is we have journalists and we have activists embedded in these companies that are everywhere, and they are terrorizing all the devs on their team into goose stepping in line with them, and they have to go. The layoffs, thankfully, the one silver lining of the layoffs, it's a terrible thing, but it is affecting some of this. So some of the activists who are lower productivity, because strangely enough, there was a correlation with how woke you are and how productive you are, and I can tell you that internal leads and studio heads are noticing.
Yeah.
Right. And so the layoffs are going to start to prioritize that and have been a little bit. And that gives me hope. So I think there's great hope. And I think there's great hope in AA gaming. Games like Power World and Helldivers coming out. They're knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
They're smaller, they're more nimble, they have less funding, so they have to focus. I think that's great. And so I'm hopeful. It's going to take a little while. We need patience. Give us 2 years, vote with your wallet, and you'll see everything change.
I love that. I love that there's some level, at least, of optimism there. I think that is very, very important. Okay, for the last 10 minutes or so, I know we have some super chats that have come in. I appreciate y'all hanging out with us. I'm going to go through these because I know some of them are, of course, directed to Grummz. So let me get through these. Okay, we have Vito Prashad with a 5 says, it's been a minute. Hope everything is going well with you, big homie. It is. Scorpio with a 10 says, Grummz is late and Sweet Baby Inc. No. I got the link to him late because that was on me. I actually sent him one that was through StreamYard, and we don't use StreamYard for this, so that was on me. That's why we were a tad late. Steven DeLeon, appreciate you becoming an Ultramac. As well as dropping his 5 says, what's up, Black Stan Lee, Black Walt Disney. Keep failing upwards. West Texas in the house. Shout out West Texas. We got CJ with a 20 says, We got one of the most controversial people in comics and one of the most controversial people in gaming in one stream. Yeah, right. Thank you both for advocating for the fans. DEI sucks. Yeah, that is awesome that we could finally get on my channel. Yeah, I'd argue that right now at least. You're gonna have you probably got the two of those two mediums, the two most scrutinized and hated are right here having a blast. But look, it's because you're over the target. That's just how this type of stuff works.
Absolutely.
When you start talking about things, you start highlighting things that are so important, and you're right, and a lot of people are listening. You're going to inevitably get those that are trying to. It's almost a form of misdirection, right? From their own shortcomings.
I understood. I came in eyes wide open.
Yeah.
I initially rejected. I said, "Let's not talk about this."
Yeah.
And then I said, "No, we have to talk about it." And I reluctantly stepped in, and then once I decide to do something, I'm in. And
Yeah.
of course, it's made me a huge target. And that was never that was the cost, and
Yeah.
it's the cost that I think someone needs to pay to help shed light on this.
Absolutely, it's worth it. So it is what it is. There's a lot more supporters for sure that are out there and that appreciate at least highlighting the actual issues. Defendo99 with a 5 says, "Hey, Grummz, saw Asmongold's video on your project. Hope you get a chance to talk about it on his channel and clear up the air. Best of luck to you." I have no idea about that or what he's going on about. Do you know anything about what he's talking about?
Oh, yeah. So some ex-reporter from The Escapist who has a rag called Second Wind came out and did a hit piece on myself. And that's something that would probably take up an entire show just to talk about. But I think Asmongold was fair. I think that he doesn't know what's true and untrue, so he repeated some of the lies that were told. But he has a fair take on it, and the comments have been very positive. And basically, it backfired. This guy tried to come after me and cancel me, and as soon as he did, our Discord exploded. We have hundreds of new people coming in. Everyone's saying, "Hey, tell me more about the game. Tell me more about the game." People who know me, I don't show my game. I never talk about it on YouTube shows unless they drag it out of me. I never talk about it on Twitter because I don't want it to take away from the issues at hand. And so this reporter was saying, it's like, "Hey, he's trying to use Twitter to promote his game." And people were like, "Where's the promotion?"
Yeah, like this is something new to me. It's news is essentially what everybody's saying.
They're like, "You're making a game?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny how that works. So,
I posted Asmongold's video because
Okay.
I got nothing to hide and everything to prove, right? So yeah, we've had our ups and downs. Go check out his video. It's fair. There are misrepresentations there, and in the comments you can see people refute that. But Asmongold isn't making those, isn't lying. He's just reacting to this reporter's threat. And thankfully, I gotta thank him. Thank you for making my game so freaking popular. So thank you for that.
There you go. Transformers fan with a 5 says Daniel Warren Johnson, image Transformer writer in Rippaverse win. Excited for Yaira #1 and hope to get an Optimus Prime type hero in the Rippaverse. I hadn't talked to Daniel Warren Johnson, but I am game to expand this company in ways that make sense. So yeah, appreciate that, Transformers fan. Graph Webb says #cancel Disney Plus, as he always says. CJ with a 5 says StarCraft is a GOAT strategy game. I used to wreck people with my Sage tank push. Jim Raynor is a hero. Says much love to the OG team. So
Kerrigan did nothing wrong.
Kerr was with a 5 says Star Citizen, try this. Didn't think that will be. Are you saying they tried this, or I'm not understanding? I don't even know the state of Star Citizen right now.
Yeah, they're talking about the crowdfunding, which is probably the most successful crowdfunding in history and continues to break records. I'm a Star Citizen backer and I'm a Star Citizen fan. I have a huge investment in ships. My kids and I do. We enjoy the experience for what it is. He's creating a basically a simulated universe. Is it a game? No, but did he deliver? I think he has. I think we're playing it right now, and it's a kind of a living, breathing thing, and I look forward to what happens to it.
There you go. We got that one guy being a member for 14 months. Thank you so much. We have 2 from Taker16 says June is the big Gear 6 reveal next gen. Okay. We shall see. Stephen De Leon with a 5 says my favorite part of ISOM, this is a joke of course, is when ISOM and Grummz team up to defeat super lesbian villain Disparu. I know, we love Disparu. We got Garfield's Bizarre Adventure with a 12 months.
I like him too.
Yeah. It says Eric July ruined taxes and the IRS for me. My apologies. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. Shout out to you, man. No, I love to see you here. Man, a lot of these came in. I didn't see these. We got Jelani Wood with a 20 says, Grummz, you're doing the Lord's work. Don't ever stop, Eric. You in the MMOs. I know you busy, but one day you have to play Final Fantasy 4. I've already played it. I've already played Final Fantasy 14. Says I worked on Gears of War at my first tech job, and it was a great experience. And Cliffy B was fun to work with. Says Jelani Wood with a 20. Yes, appreciate that 20. And I've played that. I've played that. Still looking for that, just something to satisfy my itch. Hopefully that will happen soon in that MMO space. HTK Base Player with a 5 says, I love Baldur's Gate 3-style rippaverse game. Let me create a hero and get the other characters to build my team. Maybe Grummz can develop it. Wink, wink, he says. I'm going to talk to Grummz about some industry stuff actually after this a little bit. Not necessarily him making a game for me, but for sure we want to talk because I know he has a lot of knowledge, and I'm very ignorant on a lot of that, and I've heard you guys on maybe wanting something in the gaming space. So I'm gonna look to maybe his expertise and get some knowledge there. So Bruce with a 10 says, how long can these companies realistically keep losing money from DEI infested games? Well, it has to be sustained, right? It's one thing to be lose money here and there, but over a period of time, back to back to back, I think at that point, yeah, DI money starts to dry up. A lot of this stuff was happening off of established.
Happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing it happen, right? Where those L's accumulate, and it's one thing to lose here and there, but if you're that dedicated and you said we're going to fundamentally change our company and we're going to go in this direction, and the customers start to reject that over a period of time, well, yeah, that's not going to be sustainable. So Grummz brings up a great point, right? In that with gaming, it's different because, well, these games take a while, so we're not seeing it, till further down the line. So there may be a slight delay there, but it's still happening, if you will. It just may take us a delayed impact of.
You got to do it right now.
Yeah, you
got to not buy right now. This year is critical. Next year is critical. You do that, everything changes.
There you go. Trey with a 10 month says, good conversation. Grummz and Ripper ready to get Yaira in my hands. Yes, in the next month. I can't wait to start fulfillment for that. We got Nick with a 2 says, if the demo is ready, why? I don't know what he's asking. I guess he's asking about the Osmond Gold thing. He's already addressed that, Nick. Appreciate that too. We have Joshua with a 10 says nothing. We got Celtric with a 5 says, currently working on his own game. He says, hi, Grummz. I'm currently working on my own game. I'm in the process of concept.
Hey.
Any advice?
Yeah, stick with it. It's the best time for small, even solo devs to make a game. All the tools are out there. You can do it.
There you go. Headcase Laboratory with a 2 says rippaverse and Grummz, maybe video games. Perhaps everybody's like making that connection. This happens like this, Grummz. Like I'll do a video or a stream with someone, and then I think they've gotten the habit of seeing me and that person start collaborating on something else, like with the Rippaverse. So I think this is what's happening right now. They're seeing, oh, hey, these guys are collaborating. Are they going to work on a game?
We did a crossover with Common America.
Oh, you did? I did not know. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. We did a whole statue. There's using our model in the game. We made there's a Common America outfit that for a limited time people could get just for. And yeah, we had a great time collaborating with them, and they're looking at they're asking their users right now if they'd like to see it commercially made, so you can buy it, and I think that's going pretty well. So yeah, so that's we've definitely done crossovers in the past.
There you go. And shout out to the guys over there at Iconic Comics. We have 2 from I just read that one. We got Giga Barrel with a 50. Wow, says thank you for making my favorite game with WoW. And here's to doing it again with Ember. Says Giga Bear with a 50.
Awesome.
Bones.
Thank you.
Jesus.
Thank you, Giga.
Thank you. Shout out to you. Our man, here he is. Alec Baldwin's finger with $100 says, thanks for everything you're doing, Grummz. Y'all giving me the money. Why? What's up with that? Like,
because you're a good cause.
giving me the money. Like,
you're a good cause.
I appreciate.
Don't worry. When our new demo drops, that's when we'll start another funding round. Well, I'm not taking any money right now. You can subscribe to me on Twitter. You can, if you like. That's and buy me a game. It's but that's great. No, you deserve it. I've seen your videos. I've been with you on shows, your comics. You're doing great.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that. And Alec Baldwin's figure, that's not cheap. It was $100, man. Thank you so much for that. We have As Wonky Eyebrow with a 3 months. We have Ty with a 2, says Yoshi P got the right idea. Player is king. Absolutely. We got Kurt Wells with a 5-star citizen. Not enough for me. He says the gameplay is not where he would like it. A lot of stuff that is missing. Well, it's work in progress, right? So yeah, we got Clarence with a 5, says thoughts on the new bridge issue. People are starting to talk about. I've not looked much into that, so I can't even give you an educated position on that. And Cap Gamer,
I'm going to be talking about that pretty soon.
Okay.
So stay tuned on my Twitter feed for that.
Well, there you go. And Cap Gamer with a 45 months says, I was this is a long time, 45 months being a member, man. Thank you so much. I was a WoW crack addict in 2007. I stopped playing WoW right after Battle of Azeroth with Blitzchung incident. With the Blitzchung incident is what it's referring to. Appreciate that. And Cap Gamer. That is a long time, 45 months, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Blitzchung in Hong Kong. That, COVID wiped all that out. People don't remember, but that was a big thing. Blizzard was basically shelling out to the CCP on that. So yeah, thanks for mentioning.
Oh wow. Head Case Laboratory, I think this last one says over the 2 says 2D rippaverse fighting game like X-Men and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Look, I've heard you guys loud and clear that that's something, and the more that I've done my research, I've found that this is a lot more doable. This is why I didn't entertain it as much, but it's a lot more doable than I initially thought. These engines have done people are able to do some crazy things with these. So we'll be in contact. We'll keep you guys posted on some cool things that we may have. And I believe that was the last one. So you just mentioned, Grummz, that people, if they want to, help you, you've been given a lot of cool insight. They can subscribe to your X, right? Not like as an X.
Just
that
follow
sounded
me.
weird.
Follow me on X.
Yeah,
that's free, and you can hear about what's happening with Bridge. And I have a couple other internal studio reports coming out next week.
Okay,
and that's where you can really. I'm the only insider AAA guy talking about this. Nobody else will stick their necks out. So follow me there, and if you like what I do, consider subscribing. Hit that subscribe button.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys.
And again, I don't chill my game, and we're not even taking funding right now, but you can join our Discord there too. Just search for EM-8ER, and it will pop up as a server.
There you go. There you go. So go join that server there. My man, I appreciate you joining us. Obviously, I'm going to have you stay tuned after the outro. We're going to chat a little bit briefly about some things. To the chat, to everybody that's joining us, I've had an absolute blast to be able to do an entire stream dedicated to talking about games. I would love to do that more. So hopefully maybe Grummz can have you back soon enough, man, and I appreciate you taking some time.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for letting me chat about this. I love your insights on it too. It was really entertaining, and I love the graphics. Holy smokes, I love the channel graphics. Can I get the Grummz little name tag there in a file? That would be
I got you. Well, seriously, dead serious. I got you. We'll get that to you.
Right.
No sweat. No sweat. I'll get that to you. Okay, guys, we're gonna be out of here. Tomorrow we'll be on Tuesday night's main event. You guys know, and of course, ripping the silverback. I believe this week is gonna be on Az's channel, Hill versus Babyface. So go follow us over there. But I will see you guys next time. I don't know if I'm gonna do another pop-up show, but if I don't, we'll see you next Monday at the same time. So until next time, y'all be easy and go enjoy the rest of your day.
That'll do it for today's episode of For Canon's Sake. Whether you watched us live or listened on wherever you get your podcasts, we appreciate you. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media and get more information at forcanonsake.com. We'll see you next time, and y'all be easy.